The Planning Commission meeting will be starting shortly. Thank you for your patience.
Calling to order the Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, May 22nd. To order, all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the statement of values to be read. Secretary Boozer.
As we gather, we humbly seek blessings upon this meeting. May we act with strength, courage, and will to perform our obligations and duties to our people with justice to all. Let us seek wisdom so that we may act in the best interests of our people, our neighbors, and our country. All of this we ask so that we may serve our community with fairness and respect, putting their needs before all.
Thank you. Please have a seat. We will do the roll call. Elizabeth, please call.
Sure. Commissioner Bhatnagar? Commissioner Biagini?
Here.
Chair Chirukuru?
Here.
Commissioner Wang?
Yeah, here.
Commissioner Buza?
Present.
Commissioner Salame?
Here.
Commissioner Crutchlow?
Here.
Thank you. We have a full quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the declaration of commission procedures. Secretary Boozer.
Public hearings are conducted by the chair in accordance with the following procedures. The chair of the commission directs all activities during the hearings. All comments should be addressed to the commission. Any item on this agenda may be continued to a subsequent hearing. Applicants will be allotted up to 10 minutes to present and justify proposals. Following staff presentation of the item, other speakers will be given up to 2 minutes. The applicant is allotted up to 5 minutes for rebuttal of comments. No additional comments will be accepted upon the close of the public hearing, although commission reserves the right to direct questions to any speaker on any matter. Special procedures, time limits may be applied to any items as prescribed by the chair. Appeal of commission actions must be filed in writing within 7 calendar days.
Thank you, Secretary Boozer. Copies of the current agenda and staff reports for each of the items on the agenda are available from the Planning Division office on the Friday afternoon preceding the meeting and also available online. Moving on, continuances and exceptions. This part of the meeting allows for applicants, members of the public, or other interested parties to request an item to be 1, continued without hearing, 2, withdrawn, or 3, taken out of order. Are there any requests from applicants, the public, or the commission for a continuance or exception for any of the items on tonight's agenda?
Staff has none.
Commission members? Okay, so hearing none, we will now move to the full order of tonight's agenda, consent calendar. Secretary Boozer, could you please read the procedure for consent calendar?
Happy to. The procedure of the consent calendar is as follows. Consent calendar items may be enacted, approved, and adopted by one motion unless requested to be removed by anyone for discussion or explanation. If any member of the Planning Commission, staff, the applicant, or a member of the public wishes to comment on a consent calendar item or would like the item to be heard on the regular agenda, make this request now. Items listed on the consent calendar with associated file numbers constitute public hearing items as follows. Consent items. Item 1A, Planning Commission meetings January 14th, 2023. Item 1B, Planning Commission meetings of March 6th, 2024. And item 1C, Planning Commission minutes of April 17th, 2024.
Thank you, Secretary Boozer. We have 3 meeting minutes to be approved on consent calendar, and one is from June 14th, a year ago. Thank you again, staff, for bringing it to us. Can I have a motion? Or
Actually, a question, Chair.
yes,
Microphone?
Question, Chair. How do we come across these year-old minutes that we have, as a commission, failed to approve up until yet?
I'll answer that question. It happens sometimes. As you know, the minutes usually come forward to the next meeting. Without going into details, staffing has been very understaffed, and there are priorities, and they're being caught up on. It's not unusual, it does happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the
Madam
explanation.
Chair, if I may, the clerk's office also reviews our calendar of minutes at the end of every year and identifies deficiencies, so we have a chance to rectify them as well.
Makes sense. And off note, that June 14 meeting, if you all remember, this was the use permit for the daycare. That was a pretty intense meeting, so I appreciate the details, and thank you, staff, for working on it, so.
Yeah, and they're almost completing the daycare, and I believe for the inauguration, maybe they'll have Mexican food.
Okay, all right. On that note, can I have a motion for the consent calendar items?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Boozer, second by Commissioner Bhatnagar. And this is going to be a verbal vote, since our technology today is taking a break.
And pardon me, Madam Chair, I wanted to ask, are there any commissioners that wanted to abstain from the March 6, 2024 meeting?
Yes, that's me.
Thank you, Commissioner Wang.
And I believe myself.
And Commissioner Crutchlow. Noted for the
Okay.
record, both Commissioners Wang and Crutchlow are abstaining from March 6, 2024, as neither were present.
Thank you. Okay.
Did you get your yes, no? I did.
I'm not even in.
For other commissioners, the iLegislate seems to have risen from the grave, and if you want to try again, you might be able to get it.
Okay.
Either that or it just likes Lance and I.
Yep, network.
It's giving,
Yeah.
oh, okay. It's only you two who are special.
Not that special because I immediately got a network error now.
I'm still special, hush.
Thank you. We just got the screens to work, so appreciate everyone's patience.
Some of you were able to vote
Yes, I
on
can.
screen?
Yes, I can vote on screen now.
Some people do and some people don't.
Commissioner Bhatnagar,
Yes, and I can vote on screen.
your vote is not showing up.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. If one of you cannot, we do need to do a voice vote. Commissioner Bejini, your vote has registered. I see it. Chair Kuru,
Yes.
Commissioner Buza,
Yes.
Commissioner Crutchlow.
Abstain.
Thank you, and the motion passed. Thank you.
And so,
Commissioner Wang.
and did you call?
No, his
Oh, I
vote
see.
was registered.
So there was a lot of scurrying back and forth. I just want to clarify for the record what just happened. All the commissioners voted on the consent calendar, but for the second item only, number 1B, item 24538, Planning Commission meetings of March 6, 2024, Commissioners Wang and Crutchlow abstained. They voted in favor for the other two items, but not the second one.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Moving on, we now have public presentations. This part of the item is reserved for any members of the public who would like to briefly address the commission on any items not on tonight's agenda. Not on tonight's agenda? Elizabeth, I think there's a member who's interested in confirm.
I believe you said you wanted to speak on the item about the zoning map. That's coming up in just a moment, and you'll have the opportunity to speak.
Thank you again. This is for items not listed on the agenda. Again, are there anybody online?
There are no hands online.
Okay. Moving on then, we will now open for public hearing. We have two items, one being a study session, the first of which is the recommendation, no?
Not a study session.
It shows study session assembly bill.
Oh, sorry, I thought she was going on the first.
No. I was just saying two items tonight. The first being recommendations related to the adoption of the zoning map, including general plan amendments to change the residential land use designations on identified properties to preserve residential capacity per state law, adoption of the zoning code cleanup ordinance, and adoption of the zoning map consistent with the city's general plan land use diagram. So a heavy topic, but
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have our principal planner, John Davidson, here to provide you a presentation on that item this evening.
thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So tonight, we'll be talking about adoption of the zoning map, which applies individual zoning districts that are consistent with the general plan to individual parcels. And
I know you're trying to share, John, but we don't see your slides.
yeah, even though it says in Zoom, I am screen sharing.
Yeah.
It's on, oh,
Not,
Is there?
not on a couple. Oh, there you go. Yay! Wow, the moments where we have little pleasures. Except-
Or, no, it's the third slide.
It says 3.
3.
I guess. I guess, yeah. Okay, let's not jinx it anymore. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so yeah, the purpose is to consider adoption of the map, which applies zoning to individual parcels. And along with that, we're bringing forward a zoning code cleanup, another one, and we'll continue to have more in the future as we find more things that we need to rectify in the code. We need to also change general plan designations to match existing use densities with our zoning code itself and the general plan to comply with state law. And then we'll go through the map adoption process or map adoption recommendation, including the associated general plan amendments. So zoning code cleanup. Changes that we're bringing forward as part of the zoning code cleanup include changes that make our zoning code consistent with our design guidelines, since for residential projects, the state expects cities to have zoning standards that are objective and don't involve discretion. So this one, our single-family design guidelines have the idea of step backs, meaning second-story setbacks, similar to what's shown in the picture. So we're proposing to include those with the zoning code itself at this point. In addition to that, staff is proposing to change the side corner lot setback from 5 feet, which was in the new code, to 10 feet to provide a little bit more room between the sidewalk or between somebody's yard and the sidewalk, and somebody's building and the sidewalk. A clarification that 18 feet is the maximum height limit for ADUs that are 1 story, and a 5-foot sill height for second-story windows, again, going with the idea, this is for accessory dwelling units that face neighboring properties, and this is, again, going with the idea that we're creating objective standards that can be implemented by staff. The cleanup also includes zoning standards for mobile food vendors, which is something that staff drafted but was not included in the first version of the zoning code that was adopted in December 2023, and a raft of corrected section numbers and cross-references. So implementing the general plan. So application of the new zoning code results in mixed-use districts along corridors like El Camino and Homestead Road, where, now with these mixed-use districts, developers can propose mixed-use projects by right and without relying on plan development zonings, which is new and for the city of Santa Clara, revolutionary. new office and industrial districts, which map to our general plan, which called for high-intensity office corridors along the major expressways, and then lower-intensity office R&D sort of towards the edges of the city. And a new public, quasi-public district that applies to not just city uses, but also quasi-public uses like churches. So as far as zoning code map adoption, there are constraints that we have to address that are a factor or that are created by changes to state law. So state law in the past couple of years required cities, including Santa Clara, which is a charter city, to have general plan, land use diagrams, and zoning maps that match. So this is new, and we're also constrained by the fact that cities also have to maintain residential capacity and figure out whether the zoning or the general plan have the higher density, and alter the general plan to match that, or have the adopt a zoning district that matches the higher density general plan designation. So to comply with state law, this proposal includes a number of general plan amendments in individual parcels, on the order of 600 individual parcels. So we do have a map, and these are scattered throughout the city. A lot of them were in the old quad, where in the early 1990s, there was a move to down GP, the old quad, just to try to preserve existing single-family housing. There's also a number of properties, almost neighborhoods of duplexes, where they were also general planned for single-family, and this kind of these cleanup actions or these general plan amendments help to rectify that. So there's also a number of public uses that have to be re-GP'd or for PQP instead of just being general plan for single family or some other residential designation. So those are the categories that we're generally addressing through these general plan amendments, either increasing residential capacity to be consistent with what's there now, or re-GPing properties that are being used for PQP. So as a part of the zoning map adoption, we're rezoning all of the properties in the city with newly created districts that match their general plan designation after the general plan amendments are adopted. So a couple of exceptions to that are that any adopted plan development zonings, that were adopted previously by the city council remain in effect. That's regardless of general plan designation. And then the Tasman East area will continue to use the existing transit neighborhood zoning district, which is also consistent with the general plan. And the reason for that is that non-residential standards for the R6 district, things like daycare and office on the first couple of floors of a building, which are in the TN district, were not added into the R6 district when it made its way into the new code. So we'll be addressing that through the next cleanup ordinance. So, and with that, staff recommendation is to first adopt a resolution recommending that City Council adopt general plan amendments to maintain residential densities consistent with state law. 2, adopt a resolution recommending that City Council adopt the zoning code cleanup ordinance, including changes to single-family setbacks to be consistent with the city's adopted residential design guidelines. And 3, adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council adopt a zoning map consistent with the city's general plan land use diagram. and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, John. Commissioner Huang?
Yes, yeah. Actually, I noticed the second story house, the setback. Yeah, it's in the single family design guideline. With this change, it's just go to the zoning. Okay.
It's codifying something that's currently only a guideline, and this is consistent with the general trend in residential zoning regulations that they have to be objective, and they have to be something that's not just a matter of discretion, like a design guideline.
Yeah, I think. I mean, with the setbacks, it's. I think.
Yeah.
I think cause the designer and owner a lot of probably trouble. Personally, I don't like it. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Wang. Any response to, and I will go there with you, but any other response to staff yet? And I have more questions on that. So I want to make sure staff has an opportunity to respond to Commissioner Wang's. And let me paraphrase it differently. Why do we still need to have step backs in the current day and age as a limiting factor? It is currently in our design guideline, but it is not required that we take it into our objective design standards, is what I'm sensing. Commissioner Wang is going. Okay.
Right, so, Madam Chair, I believe the intent is to simply make the standard enforceable. With residential design standards, we can no longer enforce anything that is subjective. If we want to impose our design guidelines on a residential development of 2 or more units, and somebody says, no, I'm not going to do that, we have to let them build whatever they want. So the council has made this policy choice to have step backs on second story. So part of that move to objective design standards so that they can be enforceable requires that we put them into the zoning ordinance. If as a policy matter you disagree with this, we can simply extricate that section of this ordinance, and we simply will.
We'll continue to refine it. Yes. So the question I have going a little further, and I hope it helps us get a better understanding, what is this setback? Like, to allow it to not be discretionary, they should be objective. It shouldn't be random. What is the actual step back required?
Step backs are 5 feet in addition to the first floor setback.
Which is typically from a side yard, 5 feet. So the step back on a, let's say, a 40 feet wide, so you have 5 feet on each side on a 60-foot lot, let's give it a 50-foot home, you would now be required to reduce the second story to be 40 feet centered.
Correct.
Which is recognized. We have implemented this in our past approvals, but it's a recognized burden as well on a land use, on a land owner. So I will allow that to be just a clarification and open for deliberation.
I'm fine with that. That makes the property look better than if you had just a straight walk going all the way up to the top. If you've seen some of the old, before they had step backs, some of the old additions, it looks hideous. It looks like they put another box on top of another box. This at least will give it, make it look a little bit like it belongs.
Let me pause it. Let me pause it. You're looking at this particular architectural style. There are other architectural style that would have a completely different, you're making assumptions that it's always gable roof or a hip roof, and that's not the way the modern designs are going. No. They are more of rectilinear, especially when it comes to modular prefab.
That's what you're going in. That's what everything then will look the same, and everything will be a cookie cutter type of a thing. And that's what I think will destroy the look of a neighborhood. If you have houses that are, completely different, and all of a sudden you build something that is just a box on top of another box, it destroys the look of your neighborhood. This at least will, this style here, will at least will give it keep it make it look a little bit more pleasant to look at. If you look at all the designs that they're putting out here, especially if you look across the street, it looks like everything's just one box on top of another box on top of another box. That's what the developers want to do to keep the cost down and to make more money on a piece of property. But forget about the look, because they don't have to look at it, they don't have to live in it. So my thing is, that looks pretty good. At least we'll keep some of the looks in the neighborhood.
Thank you, Commissioner Boozer. Commissioner Wang, so that's one clarification. Do you have any other questions? And we'll go further.
No.
Okay, so anybody else have any secondary thoughts to that, Commissioner Lenz, or a different?
To this issue or
To,
another?
to this issue? Okay. We will take this up again, but I'd like some additional clarification. And I second Commissioner Wang in this, that we should not limit ourselves to the step backs. But Commissioner Salem.
Okay, so on slide 13, I was hoping that at this point we would be able to come together on a common color scheme for our maps, because I'd like to be able to look at what's on the wall and what's in the slide, what's on the website, and understand what I'm looking at compared to doing a mental map of sections in blue versus cream versus pink versus. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but could we perhaps as a city come up with a color scheme and then have our maps displayed the same? It's not a criticism, it's just a request.
And actually, may I help clarify that the colors are a regulated color code system
Right.
for maps, for residential, for especially most of the uses that we know of. But go ahead. Yeah.
If you want to go ahead.
Go ahead.
So first of all, this is an image of the existing zoning diagram, the existing zoning map. So very different from what you'll see with the new zoning map that maps to the general plan, which you see up on the screen or on the wall. We will have, the areas of lower and higher intensity industrial development, and it'll look different. I understand your point about, having consistency in color. The old zoning map is much more consistent with sort of standard practice for colors on zoning maps, red generally being commercial, blue being industrial, yellow being residential. So this is, the old zoning map is more the standard look and feel. And I suppose we could consider changing the general plan map to be a little bit more consistent with.
New zoning map.
Well, I think really all I'm asking for is that we move towards a standard for our future. I understand that things diverge with development and over time, but if we continue to diverge, it's going to be much, much more difficult to mentally grasp what our city looks like from web page to web page or map to map. So if we can move towards a standard, that would be really helpful. The other thing is I'm not going to get into the other thing. I'll let you guys go further, and then we'll talk.
No, that's a good thought.
Any other comments, Commissioner? Okay. And with full permission, I'm going to go in. So thank you again for aligning our zoning code. So I'm going to have a couple of quick clarifications that was not in your presentation in our report. The confirmation that we have, now we're going to correct zoning code updates such as section numbers. But where I'm going now is there's a fourth bullet that says change the side corner lot setback exterior from 5 feet to 10 feet to provide a more comfortable interface with the building and the sidewalk and a better transition between neighboring properties. So we are adding to the constraint on a property width, depth, for a corner lot, agreed, from existing 5 feet to 10 feet. I just want to make known that that's an additional change in the zoning code update. Is that new?
That's new, but it's more consistent. It's moving it back. The original zoning code that was in effect since 1969 had a corner side setback of 15 feet. And
Okay.
it was changed in December to 5 feet. And upon reflection, staff decided that it would be better to be somewhere in the middle.
Okay, and so what happens to those corner lots that now have the potential for an SB9 to come through? Would we still implement the 10 feet setback pre-division, or?
Well, I mean, we'd implement whatever's in effect at the time.
So SB,
If someone were to come in today, it would be the 5 feet.
okay,
But
So-
they come in August, it'll be 10 feet.
This is expected to go to council on July 9th, so it would become on July 16th. So it would become effective on August 15th. So if it's after August 15th, they'd be subject to the 10 feet. If they come in before that, they'd only need the 5 feet.
okay. And the 10 feet is from the end of right-of-way?
From the
Does-
property line, yes.
It does not include the sidewalk?
Doesn't, most of the time, no, it doesn't include the
Include the
sidewalk. It's at the back of the sidewalk, yeah.
Okay, so just want to make sure that we are all recognizing that the new setback for corner lots will now be 10 feet rather than 5 feet. And then the second one is a clarification that the 18 feet maximum is limited to a one-story configuration. Tell me more what that means. So ADUs cannot be 2 stories, even if they are 18 feet?
That bullet might have been, written a little bit badly there, and that's my fault. So the idea is that for single-story ADUs, they're limited to 18 feet. That's the point of that bullet. If you have a 2-story ADU or a multiple-story ADU, they can go up to 25 feet in height.
25 feet. That's what I was wondering. I was like, okay.
The ADU ordinance has like two separate sections, one for if you're 1 story, one for if you're above 1 story. And one if you're detached, one if you're detached.
Right, and by state law, we're required to allow 18-foot tall, 1-story ADUs.
Got it. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were not limiting ADUs to be just a 1-story.
Right.
Okay.
Depending on where they are on the lot, you are allowed to go up to 25 feet, 1.5 stories, I think we call it. But when you're on a different part of the lot, you can only go 1 story, and we've now defined that as 18 feet.
And that allows with a loft?
The 1.5 story allows for the
Oh, no,
loft.
the
Is that what your
18
question is?
No, the 18.
It does seem like kind of a tall ceiling, doesn't it? What does that mean?
No, it's 1 story. There's no idea that a loft is a part of that.
High ceilings, low floors.
Makes good attics too, as a loft.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what I thought the reason the 18 feet was
Yeah.
for like a gable or some kind of attic, but not
Yeah.
a,
You could like mezzanine it.
We do have a section of the code that allows 1.5-story ADUs, which gets you that loft. There's additional qualifications that you need to meet in order to
I
do
see.
that.
Okay, so if it is 1.5, so
Right.
there are no 2-story ADUs then?
There could be 2-story ADUs,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And where would that be?
1,
Because,
1.5,
wait a minute,
2.
That's just bringing, how can you put that in a lot with a 5,
No.
what are you giving, a 5-foot easement?
18 is
All of a
for
sudden,
1 and
You want to see
1.5.
this big old hanging thing in the back of your, in your backyard. Your house next door.
is it a function of the total square footage of the lot?
No, and so 2-story ADUs, and Leslie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking of 2-story ADUs as attached only. And so, yeah, consistent with what a single-family house would look like. So the 1.5-story detached ADUs are meant to reduce the overall mass of the building as it sits close to somebody else's lot. 1.5 stories just means that the second story is mostly under the roof. So it doesn't really have the sort of wall heights of a two-story or of a second story.
Are we then stipulating the roof type?
No, but we are, the code does require two of the opposing walls to be 5 feet, 5 feet or less in height. So short walls on two sides to keep it under the roof.
Okay, and we're making assumptions they're all sloped roofs. That's why I'm going with this. That's why I was
Well,
asking.
they
are
would
we-
have to be
You would have to be, yeah.
to capture at least the height necessary for building code purposes.
And the idea is to sort of hide that half-story under the roof structure, so it appears as a one-story structure versus a more intrusive two-story structure, while still meeting state law.
Okay, so just to clarify, since a couple of us are still struggling here, we have a single-story ADU that can be up to 18 feet max.
Correct.
We have a 1.5-story ADU that can go up to,
25 feet.
25 feet, and that's detached only.
that is detached. And if it is 2-story, it has to be attached
Attached,
Correct.
to the house
yes.
and can be the height of the house, which is again 25 feet, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, feel like we're cornering ourselves, but okay. Actually, I just feel like we just, yeah, somebody could challenge this, because I can see, and as much as the beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, I can see more and more, modernistic styles that are more rectangular, linear, boxed.
Monolithic.
Drive to Sunnyvale, drive to Cupertino, it is there. So let's not deny it. And a period in time. Every aesthetic style is only a period in time. So when we stipulate these kind of restrictions, think of that you are mandating a roof structure that can get challenged that's not explicit again in your design objective standard. You're not saying that it has to be a sloped roof, and you could very well have a box at 18 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
A strong support to the chair.
Huh?
Strong support to my chair.
Oh, finally.
Well, do we want to make some kind of,
Recommendations?
yes.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why we are reviewing it today, so I'm more than happy. I will, yes, we should consider all of this, and let's just clarify. So this is the zoning code update. The objective design standards are part now of our zoning code, or are they a separate document that needs to be adopted somewhere?
No, they're part of the zoning code, or, yeah, to the extent that we have objective design standards, they're in the zoning code.
And we
So-
don't currently have a whole lot, but there are some in there. The design guidelines are a much larger document with lots more suggestions that are not being put into the zoning
So,
code.
but they're still guidelines.
They are still guidelines.
Okay, so that's why I'm going between the two nuances of where we are saying the step back is in the guideline, and now we are making it a requirement, but there are a whole umpteen number of them that are still in the guidelines
Correct.
that are not in the zoning code. So the question is, why now put the step back into it to be enforceable when you have a whole lot of others that are not?
Right. And this was something that came up at the city council during
Yeah.
the adoption hearing.
And I'll say this from where I came. I was at a recent, I was a panelist on a conference, real estate developers. They're looking to get SB 9 done, okay? And they're all wondering, because they were ready to almost take it up.
Could you try again?
I will try. And
That was so appropriate.
So well timed.
okay. Whew. On that note, the question that I forgot now.
You're on a panel.
Why only why are only some of the guidelines now being brought, and to my mind, could get challenged because they seem to be arbitrary if we don't have ample justification as to why. I was at the panel, and the panelists, they were interested in SB 9, and they were almost challenging cities because certain cities are using that they haven't adopted an objective design standard yet to not even take their application in. Meaning that SB 9 can happen today, now. It's effective from January. But apparently some cities are using that the objective design standards are coming, and until then, please wait.
No.
And I want to make sure that we are not doing something like that. And then all of our objective design standards are actually thought through. Like, where is our zoning code now a solid document that can say we have thought through this as an objective design standard, enabled zoning code?
So what you have before you today and what was adopted in December is the objective standards that in there are thoughtful, and obviously we're coming back to revise them more after thinking more.
Okay.
But on our work plan for the planning division, we do have developing objective objective standards to put into the code to further refine our
Okay.
code
So
and
we-
make them all more knowable. This particular one, the step backs, it comes up a lot, mostly those adjacent neighbors who are looking for more privacy and
Yes.
less massing at their property line. So that's why, another reason why this was included.
Absolutely. I know, we've been there. We know the swimming pool issues, we know the bedroom issues, we know the window issues. All of it will fizzle away when SB 9 kicks in for the next door application.
And just to respond to the SB 9 comment, I won't ask you what city those developers were working with, but SB 9 went into effect January 1st, 2022. 2022. And rest assured, we have not turned anyone away saying that, oh, we're working on our design guidelines, come back in 2.5 years.
I'll tell you the name of the city afterwards.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to make it clear. We still have a work in progress in our objective design
Yes.
standards to be refined and to be added to our code.
Yes.
I would be wary of making, especially more constraining levels, which is fine. I get the true intent of preserving the neighborhood. It's our moment, otherwise we've lost it. The state can do whatever they want after it's a ministerial application. So this is our right opportunity to do the way we want our neighborhoods to look. So I completely get the viewpoint, but I just want to make sure we are making it realistically tangible and not just something that is based on something random. So two caveats of the things that we talked about today. One is the step back, and that's an additional 5 feet on both sides. And the second one is that we are going from a 5 feet side yard setback to a 10 feet on a corner lot. And that we have an 18 feet, which is fine, but want to make sure that you all acknowledge that you should take the various design styles into consideration and not assume that it's only sloped roofs when it comes to 18 feet, single story, or 1.5 foot, 25 feet. So with that, I will entertain any other comments. Commissioner Salim.
Okay, so I'll get into the other part. When you explored the change in the setback from 5 to 10 feet after going from 15 to 5, was this done against the different geometries of the corner lots that are in question? I speak with some experience being on an inside cul-de-sac. It's more of a truncated wedge or a pie shape. And when you adjust the street-facing dimension by that amount of feet, it actually reduces the amount of buildable space within the lot considerably more than that seeming 5 feet, because it pushes all of the building back, and then you have the setbacks at the back and the side, and you wind up with a postage stamp to build on. I'm hoping that there's some consideration or allowances for variances of lot shape. The other thing was, I think that's actually going to be enough. I'm going to stop at that, because that's actually a substantial concern.
Yes, and to piggyback on that, we have so many different types of shapes and lot sizes, and, especially and I want to make sure historic districts are the same setbacks implemented there? Okay, so now we are getting a little more constrained, because now we probably have a historic. So now with this, what we'll end up having, which is fine, just a double-edged sword, is it'll push more into variances. You'll just see a lot more variance applications come through because of course, all our variance language.
So just to reiterate here, the city is largely built out. The city was built out under regulations that allow for, or that require a 15-foot corner side setback. The 5-foot corner side setback was in effect since February.
This year?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has only been in effect for a few months.
I see.
And we are continuing forward with a refinement to put it back at 10 feet. So to
That
the
makes
extent,
sense. Okay.
to the extent that anything, there's probably been very little built in that 3-month window, in those corner side setbacks.
Got it. But most of this, okay, so now I'm going to rephrase that. We are actually having a code that requires 15 feet. We have allowed some exceptions with 5 feet. I don't know if it's an exception or we've just permitted it.
Permitted.
No, just that the rules changed for a few months.
Rules changed for a few months. Okay, we'll assume it never happened.
Yeah, now we're pulling it back a little bit.
Okay, now we're going from 15 feet to 10 feet.
Right.
But, so, okay. Then I have a little more comfort in looking at from a reduction from 15 feet to 10 feet as a yield.
Yeah.
I know. How many people avail the 5 feet? Darn, I didn't.
I actually don't know. It may be none.
Okay, so very, very
Yeah,
measly count. Okay, if at all.
yeah, everything that recently went to hearing has already
And why
been in
did
the
we
works.
change it?
So,
Why did we change it in February from 15 feet to 5 feet?
oh, good question.
Again, I don't want it to be, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's interesting conversation, but I'm going to add in the one last thing because I don't want to lose it. For the 5-foot sill height of the ADUs, is there an exception for that if it's an egress window, emergency egress? Because there may be situations where the ADUs are adjacent to property facing neighbors, but haven't got a sufficient egress. So,
Okay,
We have not put in any sort of an exception. I think the idea is for property owners and designers to come up with a solution in the design that puts the egress windows away from the property line.
okay. Well, just as long as maybe they're alerted to that fact that when they design this,
Right.
they better be very careful that they're not assuming low sill height for egress. So, awesome, thank you.
So there is ways to say we can have objective standards on ADUs. The exception is to prevent adverse impacts on any real property that's listed in the California Register of Historical.
yeah.
So those we can, but one of the things you can't do, and I'm curious to get corrected here by our legal advice here, if we say we want to specify what a roof should look like on one of these, there is a limitation in the case of an ADU going on a condominium association. The architectural review cannot stipulate that. And obviously that's in that one instance, but I'm wondering if, since that is their intent, would that also then, if we said, hey, well, you have to have a certain kind of roof, even though it's not anything to do with a condominium association, it's like, well, wait a minute, we don't care. So I don't know if there's other regulations here in the government code for this, but I think there's a lot in here, because I'm looking at the different civic, government codes here, and there's a lot of exceptions and squirreliness
Yeah.
that we can get stepped on. I know you guys, did a good job of reviewing this and things, but as I'm reading this, it's just really scaring me.
Yeah.
And what we can and cannot do, and what people will come up and say we can and cannot do. So, my question to staff is, on some of these things that we're going to look at, if we wanted to make sure that the design and the look and feel of an 18-foot ADU has a certain look and feel, to what extent can we really do that? And the way I'm looking at it, I don't
Yeah.
know.
The objective design standards, and staff can actually reiterate or reaffirm, from what I understood in knowing with the state, is that they are requiring it to be objective, meaning that it's not arbitrary. Okay, the city should have ample justification for those objective standards, for life safety and well-being of the neighborhood, the neighborhood. So want to make sure that whatever we are doing doesn't seem like we are just trying to get another way around to the interests, and to minimize any potential future variations that will become like, oh, I need a variance, I can't do the 10 feet anymore, and that becomes like a norm.
I think you're going to have the variance problem, and you're also going to have a problem in trying to say, okay, we have a particular look and feel to these neighborhoods. There's not a historical building next to it, but we'd still like to not have something that all of a sudden is so different that it really doesn't look good, but then, of course, that's not
Yeah.
objective.
Exactly.
What I
how do-
see
how
as
do
a
we do that?
problem,
Yeah.
the more we talk about this, is it's almost like, shall we take bets how many variances
Yeah.
next year, followed by, and how many, but you let them do it, why can't I do it?
So,
Which almost like makes the whole idea of a variance kind of beside the point.
right, so what I'm thinking is, given that we're trying to, make recommendations to city council.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we necessarily have all the answers. I know you did a great job of presenting the things that you did and such, but to me, it opened up a whole bunch of can of worms. What is the best recommendation we can give city council at this point?
And staff, so again, we are trying to do some cleanup, but there's more work with the zoning code itself. And that will have a more robust, objective design standards folded into the zoning code language. Am I reiterating that accurately?
Correct, yes.
And when that happens, will there continue to be a guideline document out there somewhere?
Well, the guideline document is just for our single-family homes, and we're really looking to do objective standards for more than just single-family. So the guidelines, they're adopted council document. I imagine they'll still stay in effect. They're still valuable for guiding.
But so let's take an SB 9 application, comes in August 1st. Once this zoning code cleanup happens, you don't have the rest of the objective design standards in the zoning code per se.
Correct.
They are still in the realm of somewhere being adopted. What would be the stance of the planning office for those applications? What would be the referencing documents to say, yes, you meet these standards?
It's the zoning code, and then what also is allowed under SB 9, because SB 9 has its own allowances as well.
Got it. And so it's not the full document of all the objective design standards that we would have.
It's whatever's, our zoning code is the document we reference, right?
Okay.
We look at the setbacks that are in the
And you won't be
zoning
looking
code.
at the guideline document then?
We wouldn't look at the guideline.
That's what I'm trying to.
Well, I'm going to take that back. We would look at it, we would suggest to the homeowner or the
Yeah.
property owner, but we couldn't require.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
But, I would like to remind you that after SB 9 was enacted, the city did undertake a process of adopting an SB 9 ordinance. We adopted design standards that we put into our zoning code for SB 9 developments. That SB 9 ordinance was ported into the new zoning code. That has not changed substantively since we adopted that. So we went through a whole public process of coming up with design standards.
Okay.
Some objective design standards for SB 9 developments.
Got
So
it.
I just want to remind the commission that what we're asking you to do tonight is mostly things like, there's a reference to 10 food that should be 10 foot. We're doing very few substantive changes. You've hit on the big ones,
big
which
ones.
is the changing the
Yes.
the step backs and also the side corner. Also, we're changing regulations for mobile food vendors. But there's virtually nothing else in this 40 pages of edits that is substantive.
Got it. Okay.
Mostly what we did substantively has already been done. With respect to Commissioner Crutchlow's question about ADUs, I will tell you that the ADUs part of the zoning code was the most time-consuming and headache-inducing for all of us. It is such a complicated knot of state laws and regulations and worrying about how HCD and affordable housing advocates will react to it. We have been through it a bazillion times, but I will tell you there are certain standards that when you meet these state standards, we have to approve the ADU ministerially. And we have a section for that in our ordinance, ministerial ADU approval in these circumstances where you have this size, this type of setback. We don't have any discretion. Where you don't meet those standards, we expressly retain discretion to impose subjective design standards, to go through the standard architectural process. If you're building an ADU, it is one unit, not two, so you can still impose subjective standards, and we reserve that authority. So to the extent we can still impose subjective standards, for the moment, we will. We also have express language addressing what happens when you have an impact on a historic property for an ADU. Whether it's ministerial or not, you can't do it. You cannot have an adverse impact on a historic property. The ministerial process does not apply. The city can insert itself at that time. So we do have language addressing that circumstance at least. Anyway, that's,
Okay, Commissioners Salem?
One last question then, is there an asterisk anywhere that applies any of these zoning code objective changes to legal nonconforming lots? Are there any of these changes that apply, is what I should mention?
we're not making substantive changes to the legal nonconforming chapter tonight, I don't believe. No substantive changes. We definitely have a whole chapter on legal nonconforming uses in the new zoning ordinance, but I don't believe we made any substantive changes to that.
We could not impose new ADU restrictions that are from this document on people adding ADUs in legal nonconforming lots. Because they're
Sandra, correct me.
wide here. I'm sorry, I don't mean to
Oh,
stop the.
well, okay, so the,
We can't preclude an ADU that's 800 feet, like 800 square feet. So we have to allow an ADU that's 800 square feet, and if they need to reduce the setback in order to do that, we have to allow it.
What about the sill heights?
well,
They say
think
that
we
I
have to-
can't make it fit on this lot with the 5-foot sill heights. I don't, it's absurd, but
well, you still have to have emergency exit somewhere. So if there's only
Right.
one side to put the emergency exit on, I mean, we can't violate the fire code in the process. But other than that, what would prevent you from putting in a sill height? I don't know.
you know, the maximum roof height and things like that would have to be interpreted in the context of the plot that is being modified to include a new ADU and not necessarily fit any of the cookie cutter recommendations that are part of the objective plan that we have, or objective standards that we're proposing. They would need special handling by definition, right? I hope I said that correctly. It's slightly confusing.
I think he lost you.
Uh-oh.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they meet all the standards, we have to approve it. If
Yeah.
they don't, if it's a substandard lot, then we may be able to insert ourselves in the process. I will tell you, though, there's also a provision in state law that says if you have an illegal nonconformity, we cannot require you to fix it
Right.
as a condition of getting an ADU. So I imagine if it's a legal nonconformity, we can't require them to fix that
Right.
either. But it may depend on whether or not it becomes a ministerial approval or a subjective appeal, depending on the nature.
Can the ADU become a legal non-conforming ADU by the very nature of it being built as part of a legal non-conforming lot?
Possibly.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I don't want to stir the
No, but
pot
great
too hard,
question.
You just want to play stump the attorney, and it's not the night for that.
Commissioner Bhatnagar?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So let's step back a little bit. If I understood what you said, Xander, the city currently, with the current ordinances and adaptations that we've made, yes, if SB 9 requirements apply, then we agree. And if they don't apply, we can even still impose subjective standards That is the current status. Did I get that correctly?
Well, I was saying that in the context of ADUs.
Yes.
But it would apply if you are building one house using the SB9 process. If it doesn't comply with the ordinance, then you're subject to our standard subjective architectural design process.
Correct. So what the city is wanting to do through these maneuvers, let's say, right now, we do have some rights that we can assert. So then my question is, then if substantive changes are still coming, then why are we having this meeting with non-substantive changes?
No, we've already made all the substantive changes. The
So then
substantive
why-
changes you adopted. This is the cleanup night, except there's a few things we forgot, and then a few things we realized, oh, wait, that corner setback it'd be better as 10 feet, not 5.
And
And
the food.
really, the major issue here is adopting the map.
no, but you're going to make further changes, right? You've more changes coming, right?
Well, before the whole zoning ordinance process was underway, we had this on our list to make objective design standards. That's a sort of separate policy track. We need objective design standards because the state has eroded our ability to impose subjective ones. So the more and more objective standards we get, the better. But the zoning ordinance, which we started drafting 5 years ago, was sort of on its own track. It does have its own objective standards, but I think we have a separate policy track to do even more, sort of separate from that.
All right, looks like you want to get some cleanup done right now, and that's the purpose, right, at this time?
That's the purpose of the ordinance, but as Mr. Davidson pointed out, even more important is we need a new zoning map, and we've needed it for 40 years. So we're hoping you'll also recommend approval of that tonight.
Yes. And so just so we're all looking at the same information, we have new abbreviation. Do we have a new VLDR added, or has that always been very low density, has always been a zoning abbreviation?
No, that's the general plan land use designation, so, and what maps to that is, or has been in the past, our R16L, and I think we might have taken out the L in R16 at this point.
Okay. Okay, so there's 3 actions. One, pins and staples on a zoning code, as the Commissioner Biagini said. And then the second is the adoption on the map. Oh, we have a residential guidelines.
I believe we have a public speaker before you make a motion.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you
then-
so much.
And then also the general plan amendments to make certain parcels align with the zoning, where we can't have a lower general plan density than the zoning ordinance provides.
Okay, thank you, and we are not ready to make a decision. Any other further questions to staff before we open it for public comment? Seeing none, I'll open it now for public comment.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You're good?
Hi, myself Nagarajan. Thanks, John. Thanks, Lexi, and thanks everybody. So I bought 1550 Lafayette Street, Santa Clara. This is a commercial mixed use. It was a public bar, means it was a bar previously, and my plan is to take it and do it as a dance studio for my wife. And 1570 was also for a sale, but if I don't take that property, my property 1550 looks very bad. So I ended up buying 1570 also. I'm in a contract and I'll be closing in 2 weeks. But the problem with the 1570 is in the new plan, they're changing it to low residential, but zoning was a commercial. Now they're changing completely to a low residential, which doesn't make sense. So I want that to be also commercial mixed use in the future. It makes value for that. So that's what I wanted to bring it in. 1550 is a commercial mixed use and 1570 is showing as a low residential.
Staff, are we able to see the property?
I got a
And-
question for him. With one of the properties,
I'll get the map up.
you bought, the property that you buying currently buying is the, next to Jack in the Box, the bar.
Yes,
And then next to it, there used to be a printing press. That was, I think they wanted at one time make that into an office building.
I think they didn't do anything.
Yeah, I
bec-
know the owner of that property.
Yeah, I know.
the owner of
I
that
spoke to
property.
him. He was very nice, and I told him,
Yeah.
see, you're not keeping up the property. Let me take it and keep it up. So that way, both the properties looks good in the neighborhood.
So you want to combine both properties?
Yeah,
there?
I'm planning to make it as a one property, which once I close it, I think I'll be closing in next 2 weeks. So once I make it, then I'll be making as a one single property, and plan is to make some daycare or something like that, so that the property looks good, looks modern.
I'll give you a minute more.
Okay, go ahead.
Modern in the next 10 years. Right now, it looks kind of a bit shady, both the properties.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the property and
Yeah.
everything is good. So you want to make it into a daycare center?
Daycare, and my wife already teaches a dance, so evening time, it's Indian classical dance, so we'll just use it for a couple in the night, evening times for 6 to 7 for the dance studios, and morning times for the daycare, for both the properties.
Pulling up.
Yeah, and you're going to keep the parking lot and so on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it is, because otherwise can't have any parking.
Yeah, yeah.
Any
Make it-
parking at all.
Make it modern for us now, so it looks good. If it doesn't look good, nobody comes to the businesses, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Staff
Good
is-
thank
thank you.
Yeah.
Staff
I
is
wish you
pulling
well.
that property
Thank you,
up.
thanks, yeah.
For you.
It was a big investment, but if I don't buy that, this 1550 doesn't look good.
Makes sense. Thank you for bringing it to our attention, and thank you for
Thanks, yeah.
paying attention to our code changes. Okay, so this is the property. It is a corner property, and staff, remind us what the zoning overlay would be on this?
Right, so the zoning or the general plan here is for very low-density residential. So it would, through the zoning map adoption, get a single-family zoning designation, where the property immediately to the south, 1550, is designated for community mixed use and would get a community mixed use zoning. So possibly more logical thing to do would be to change the general plan on this property also to community mixed use.
I agree. I
But
mean,
this-
in general, yes, I see the value of corner lots becoming much more amicable or more giving for a retail, commercial, mixed-use component.
So when we took on this process to update our zoning map and make the zoning map match the general plan, we looked at 600 properties, maybe more, where we needed to adjust residential density. We didn't do a deep dive, into the general plan map to see where things should be changed. That really is for a comprehensive general plan update. That's where we would do that process. So if the property owner wanted to change the general plan land use designation, they would need to apply for a general plan amendment.
Got it. So today's action then, so he should, so your process, right, even if this action were not happening today, currently that property is zoned for residential and you would have to apply for a zone change. And a general plan change.
Yeah.
I apologize. Thank you. General plan change. So that would have been the normal process. And what we are trying to clarify is by adding the new zoning, so what is the current zoning on this property again, 1570?
The current zoning is CT, thoroughfare commercial, so.
Okay.
It's,
Okay.
Doesn't match its very low-density general plan.
Okay, so let's then understand that he is almost in contract with the CT zoning that has been declared and known for probably even, forever, and to the time that he's purchasing. To impose this, is there a grandfathered clause or properties that have been in the pipeline? Is there a pipeline clause that we can understand?
it would be the legal non-conforming standards that are in the zoning code would apply to, in the sense that any existing use could continue. So it's one of these things that,
But if he wanted to build a dance studio, he would have to,
It's currently vacant, I understand, being
Yeah.
used, so, yeah.
Yeah, like I said from the beginning, that was intentional to be residential.
Mike?
Your mic.
no, it's CT.
Yeah, but
general plan.
The gentleman that owned the property, he bought the property, the first one, the corner property, it was going to be to make it into residential, and also buy where the bar was when the lease went out. So that was all going to be part of residential. That was the whole concept that he had in mind he was going to do. That property is really hard to come in because you cannot make a left turn from Lafayette going this way, and traffic there is really heavy, and it backs up. So the only way you can come in is through the side street. So that's why he's going to keep the parking. If he takes it, going to keep the parking there so they can access parking. You cannot access it at all from Lafayette making a left turn. Right?
Yeah.
There you go. See how simple that was?
Okay, except our zoning is not allowing for it. Okay, let's get back to the situation at hand. So if he were to purchase the property, but the zoning code changes on him, what is his process of recourse?
We need to do a general plan amendment and rezoning.
And a rezoning.
Okay. Don't you see that as,
Yeah,
okay?
and this probably exists other places, but, within the city, but again, we didn't do a deep dive. That's a full-scale general plan update process.
Okay, since we have this and now it's up, we have to look at it in much more objective way now that we are made aware. Obviously, there's a lot more that we can unearth, but at the moment, this has surfaced. So staff, what is your recommendation?
I mean, we cannot change or recommend a change to this property's general plan designation tonight. It hasn't been noticed for that. You also cannot take action to recommend that the zoning be inconsistent with the general plan. I guess theoretically, you could leave the existing zoning intact, but I really don't want to recommend that because then you're going to have one parcel in the entire city, besides the PDs, that's still under the old zoning code designation, and we're really trying to use the new zoning code. I mean, this gentleman is going to need to apply for a general plan amendment regardless when he redevelops his property. I would suggest he simply include the rezoning as part of that at that time. I don't know. Maybe Leslie and John have a different.
But I have one question here. So last time I was with the city, I told them I'm going to merge 1550 and 1570. 1550 as the El Camino thing, that is why it came as a, so directly then 1570 also applies it. When I make it a single entity, then automatically both becomes a commercial mixed use. So I'm making as a single lot, basically, as soon as I do that, because 1550 has the already El Camino stuff.
Okay, so let's take this as a separate, so to your point, thank you for bringing, and I have a feeling that there are many more. So staff, it really begs us to take a deep dive into our lots, because this will surface up. The potential and the vulnerability of, one, putting our constituents, but two, you could be subject to asking a challenge. The question for us, though, is when we are making the change today, and that's a lot merger, is there a hierarchy of one becoming more?
So they would, if to do the lot merger, it'd have to be consistent with the general plan, and that wouldn't be consistent with the general plan.
To merge, so
The
it
two
would,
different designations, you'd need to redesignate one of them.
okay. So here's a thought. So again, this won't end tonight. We can't take one particular property out of a zoning map. That's, again, if we start digging, there'll be many. What we're trying to adopt today is a general overlay of a plan, a zoning map that aligns with our adopted general plan. In your case, your recourse is to, you will already have to do a general plan amendment. You would just apply along with it for a zone change. So it'll be a general plan amendment, zone change, and a commercial use permit. Did I capture that?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so you would make that a combined application, and it would go through the process. And at that time, you would bring all the facts together.
Okay, so even the lot merge will not help me here, that's what.
Yeah, it's not an automatic given just because you merged a lot, that it would take one of the zoning zone. It's not, it has to go through a public hearing process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing it to attention, but in your particular case and in this particular property opportunity that you're bringing, no matter what, whoever it is, they would have had to come through a general plan. And in this case, a zone change now that we are now adding, but the commercial use permit will have to be as always.
Okay, but if I do it now before August, because now the zoning is still a commercial, and 1550 is also commercial, will it become easier?
You still have to go through there's no big difference. The process is just the same. The application cost, is there a general plan cost?
I think general plan is 50,000 or something. That's the reason.
3,500?
No, it's a 50,000. That was the. Okay, sir.
I think the problem is childcare is a conditional use.
Okay. I know this is a whole application process and discussion. Is there a ability to not do this particular and see it continue till you come back with?
I mean, the problem is, as you know, charter cities are required to have zoning and general plans that are consistent as of like 5 years ago. And what the state law says is if you ever become inconsistent, you must become consistent again within a reasonable time. So every month I've been sweating more and more for the last 5 years because that is a legal vulnerability for the city. My first case out of law school 25 years ago, the city I was working for got sued for zoning ordinance general plan inconsistency.
And
So
5 years you put up with it? One more month.
please don't give me an ulcer, but I really don't want to recommend that you continue to have this weakness. No, the conversation's fine. It's all been out in the open for years, but I think he's simply going to need to
Apply
for
all
both
of
the
it.
general plan and it won't slow him down any further. I mean,
Yeah.
So I've got one other possible option. You could recommend to the council that they include this property as a part of the El Camino Real specific plan process.
Yeah,
is it contiguous?
Yeah.
just this particular,
Oh.
to go part of the El Camino Real.
This is his property, that's the specific plan, that's not. And this is the one that's concerned, so. That might actually be,
That would
Hold on,
save him.
staff is
that would,
recommending.
that would probably be the
Easiest way.
easiest course of action. It's not probably the quickest.
It depends on his
It depends
timeline.
on the timeline.
But it would carve this property out from this current action.
No,
No.
you would still leave it in this action, but you would recommend that the council include this particular property in the specific plan process.
Okay.
That process is currently underway. We're hoping to get to council January, February of next year. So again, I don't know if that works for the property owner, but
Okay.
it
And-
could
and-
be a
Okay.
solution for him to not have to do it himself.
And tell me the application cost for a zone change?
1 second. Yeah, the general plan amendment's the pricey one. One moment. All right, so a general plan is, how big is that site? What's the acreage?
Oh, is it based on the lot size?
It's a quarter acre, okay. So it's $23,600 for the general plan amendment.
Okay.
And the rezoning is $20,792.
Guys, okay. Now, okay, let's
ask
be
my
much more
question?
reasonable. I was thinking $2,500, $3,000,
Okay.
even then.
I have a question then. I mean, obviously, this is the kind of circumstance that isn't going to be commonplace, as far as we know. We're talking $43,000 because he's caught in a crunch. Is there a way of, I'm not sure how to say this, but I'll use the word forgiving the costs of all that because of the unique, I don't want Abby to sweat anymore, and he's giving me that look. But is there a way of forgiving the cost because of the unique circumstances this man is
No.
falling into? You're saying no.
Yeah, the municipal fees are the municipal fees. There's no exceptions to
Well, that's messed up.
Seriously. Okay, okay, so we have to still make a recommendation. We are here as a recommending body. I'm truly empathetic. I mean, 20,000 and 23,000 is not a joke. I mean, I can understand 2,000, 3,000, he might make up in, a couple of dance classes, but. Okay, I don't think so. Commissioner Boozer? Yes, please do not raise the voice against the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, if he can wait for the El Camino Real specific plan, he gets it for free. I mean, all that's going to be covered by the city.
And what's that timeline?
January, February?
January of next year, yeah.
I mean, assuming they pass it.
Right, that's true.
It didn't work last time, you may have remembered.
Let me ask this. I feel like we're trying to do this under the gun of a timeline.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do a disservice to you, or that we do a disservice to you in trying to, maybe come up with something and then set your expectations that, oh, yeah, that works. And then we find out it doesn't, and I would feel very bad that we do that with you. Is there a way that maybe staff or something that they can kind of talk this out a little bit more and see what options there are? Because I just don't feel we're going to be able to do that unless making the recommendation about including it is, if that you're comfortable with, and is that something we could do tonight?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll leave it to Chair.
yeah.
You can certainly add that to your recommendation. We can definitely have additional conversations between now and the council meeting to see if there's something we haven't thought of.
Yes, I truly appreciate that. Thank you for bringing it, and I know that's a hard one for you. So the recommendation, and I'm sure staff has the appropriate level of wording. Any other discussion? Thank you so much.
We will not soon forget him.
Are there any other public comments that we are?
I have no hands online.
Okay. Seeing no other members, I would like to close for the public comment. Motion to close public comment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Biagini, seconded by Commissioner Critchlow. Okay.
Commissioner Bhatnagar?
Aye.
Commissioner Buzza? Yes. Commissioner Salame? Yes. Commissioner Crutchlow?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you. So now that we've closed the time for recommendation, so we have a couple of concerns that were raised. One is on the step backs. Commissioner Salem, go ahead.
No, I was just checking. I legislate's back.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes, it is. It should be back for most of us. No, but continuing the deliberation, we had a couple of discussions on the step back, the setback, and the recommendation to add particular parcel 1570, 1550
Can you close, stop share?
into the El Camino specific plan. Any deliberation on the first two, or are we good with recommending as staff proposed?
I against it.
You would not recommend the step back be included into the zoning code?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah. I make a motion to deny that request. I mean, to put that into the proposal.
Yeah,
Okay.
may I provide some guidance, Madam Chair? So there are three resolutions before you tonight. The first is the general plan amendment. I don't think any of your discussion was related to the general plan amendments. I think everything you were talking about regarding the step backs and the side corner, all related to the zoning code cleanup ordinance, which is the second resolution before you tonight. The resolution has 44 sections, and as I mentioned, most of them are things like changing
Yeah.
food to foot. But the one that is most substantive is Section 3. Section 3 revises Table 2-3 of the new zoning code, and we highlighted exactly what is changing. And what is changing are the step backs and the side corner depth.
Okay.
So if you don't like either of those things, the step backs or the side corner, then a simple motion would be adopt the resolution without Section 3.
I see.
If you like some of it, say the step backs but not the side corner, or the side corner but not the step backs, then you'll need to give guidance on how you want to change Section 3.
Got it, okay? Okay, let's do the first one first.
But again, we'd ask that you make a motion on the general plan amendment
That's the
first.
first one, right.
Thank you.
So on the screen is the first motion that we need to adopt resolution recommending City Council adopt the general plan amendments to maintain residential densities consistent with state law.
And Madam Chair, this would be the resolution where you'd want to recommend that gentleman's property at 1570 Lafayette be included in the El Camino Real specific plan process.
With the recommendation to City Council that
Yeah.
the property 1570 and 1550, I don't know, the side streets be added to the El Camino Real specific plan.
Chair, may I ask one question about that?
Yes,
He hasn't bought the property yet, correct?
yeah.
Is there a problem with timing in making this recommendation, given that? Just asking.
It's a possibility, but right now, at the moment, we are just making the recommendation. If it closes by the city, if he closes it by the city's council, staff can take that.
And when is city council meeting on this?
It's July 16th for the items that are before you this evening.
Just so that you know, you would need to close,
Yeah, I'll be closing in 2 weeks.
He wouldn't need to.
no?
No.
It won't make the decision on the boundaries of the El Camino Real specific plan area,
Until January, February.
but not a final decision on that till then. I'm guessing we'll have a study session before then, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I'll
you're
be-
okay.
yeah, I'll be closing in just 2 weeks. It's already been 20 days.
Okay.
Just 15 days
Just
I'll
want
be
to make
there.
sure you're
Yeah.
aware. Thank you.
You're aware that it probably won't happen until January or February of next year. I'm just saying,
I can't do any business until January, February.
that's when they'll make the final decision on it. So that's what I'm making sure that you know that part. Because if you're buying this, you're paying interest on it, making payments, you want to get the ball rolling in your
Yeah,
business.
that's what I wanted to understand. If what is the fast? I know there's nothing fastest here. I know. Only way it was better if they could have added by August thing, changing the commercial mixed use. I don't know, is it possible or not?
What they're trying to do, Madam Chair, if you could clarify it for him, is that they were trying to get it as part of the El Camino.
know, that's-
So that way you won't have to pay the fees, all the fees that they will incur. But if you buy the property and you want to start building and start doing other stuff, you can not go that route, go a different route.
Let me be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, what if I were in your shoes? You're going to acquire the property, you're going to hire professionals to do
True,
your work.
yeah.
It'll be easily a year process, so
Yeah.
hang tight.
Okay.
It'll happen.
Okay. Maybe I'll talk to the staff also later
Yes.
to understand what is the timelines and
Yes.
everything. Yeah,
By
thank
the
you.
time you go through your process of just the conditional
I
use
think talking to the
permit.
staff might help me
Yes.
out also. Yeah.
Okay, so back to our consideration, we have adopted a resolution allowing the properties 1550, 1570, somebody give me the street address for the record, to be added as part of the El Camino Real specific plan. I would like to have a motion.
This is, I'm getting confused. I was thinking of a different motion.
No, that's the one, first one,
Number one.
just the plans.
Adopt general plan to make the residence consistent with state law, comma, adding
Adding the property at 1550
to El Camino.
to the El Camino Real specific plan.
So moved.
And for the record, Commissioner Biagini's recommendation was to adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council adopt general plan amendments to maintain residential densities consistent with state law, with the addition to recommend that the City Council include 1550 Lafayette and 1570 Lafayette in the El Camino Real specific plan process.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Lafayette.
that's what I said in fewer words.
What I heard.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
That's, you heard that right.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Biagini. I need a second.
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 Okay, Commissioner Krishna. I'm like, how many people said? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Biagini, a second by Commissioner Crutchlow. Thank you so much. And now we have on your screens, hopefully.
So go ahead and cast your vote.
Some of us are in and some of us are out.
Commissioner Botnagar?
Yes?
Commissioner Buza? Yes. Commissioner Crutchlow?
Yes.
Thank you, and the motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like for the second.
Have a motion?
Yes, please.
I want to make sure I'm clear on
Hold on
something.
1 second.
There was, the address was wrong,
We'll
1750.
fix it in the minutes. 1570, not 1750. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oops.
We'll fix it, yeah.
So when we're talking about setbacks and corners, the corner one, if we did not make an exception to it, it would stay at 5 feet?
5.
Yes.
Okay, then that's what I thought. All right, so I would like to make a motion. We recommend adopt a resolution recommending that the city council adopt the zoning code cleanup ordinance, including changes to single-family setbacks to be consistent with the city's adopted residential design guidelines without the setbacks, period.
Section 3. Section.
No, Section 3 includes both. I just don't like I don't mind the corner one. It's a setback, so I
I
mind.
think
Did I
Okay,
say
so
that
I
right?
said the opposite. I totally misunderstood your question. I apologize. So
Okay.
if you adopt this resolution as is, it will change 5 feet to 10 feet. So
Okay,
do you want the 5 feet or the 10 feet?
10 feet.
Okay. But how do you feel about the step backs?
step backs.
The second-story step backs, you want to,
Tell me again what the step backs are. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I want to be real clear.
they are enshrining into the zoning code the design guideline to move the second floor in.
Right, that, I call that thing.
5 feet.
Wedding cake.
5 feet on both
Wedding
sides.
cake,
5
thank
feet.
you.
The wedding cake.
In the zoning
right.
code, you recommended adoption
That one
of-
I like.
You do like the step backs. Okay. Then your motion would be, staff recommendation
I
number
just got
2,
confused. Oh, hold on.
Okay,
you like the wedding cake.
no.
I had it backwards.
You don't like the wedding cake.
So in other words, read it as is.
Hang on, let me think about this.
Okay, take your time.
Which page is the actual?
It's page 4 of 47 on the, in the resolution,
4 of 47. Hold on.
and it's the highlighted lines.
The words would be without the step backs, period.
I only heard half of that, I'm sorry.
Without the step backs.
So you don't want the wedding cake, you want to allow people to continue to build to the.
Why do I keep getting it wrong?
I don't know.
I don't
And when you say
care
10
about
feet,
the
is that
wedding
10
cake.
feet
I
total on
care
both
about
sides?
the
Like, so
corner
like a-
lots that,
So the,
Is it
okay,
10
there are
feet per
two.
side?
So the image on the slide,
Yeah.
this is what,
What is the step back?
this would be the step back required. So you would no
Wedding
longer
cake
be
is-
able to build that second
Yes.
story at the same box as the first story.
If you adopt staff's
If you
recommendation.
adopt staff's recommendation, correct.
okay.
This is one. The second one is the side step setback going from now 5 feet to 10 feet.
The corner sides.
Corner street side.
That's the one I don't like.
You'd like to keep that at 5, which is what it's been since February.
Yeah, and historically was 50.
Forget it. You make the motion, because I'm,
Okay. Commissioner Wang,
Not
please be seated.
keep the wedding cake,
Withdraw
make it
the
10
motion.
feet.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what
I
I'm
think
trying to
wedding
do.
cake, wait, okay.
I'm trying to help Huang, and I just screwed it up royally,
No,
okay?
Wong wants the other way around.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I
Wait,
think
so
we're
let me
saying
make
the
sure I
same
understand what this
thing.
is. So on the second floor, right, what you're,
This, you
today
want
it's
this.
5
He doesn't
feet,
want
which
this.
means
He doesn't want this.
No, not second floor. The 5 feet is the
me he was
corner setback.
Okay,
Let him make the motion.
okay.
I think we're the opposite then, that's what it is. I want the wedding cake, but I want 10 feet on the corner.
Zander, sorry.
Okay, through the chair, please. Commissioner Huang, you're recognized.
Yeah. So for me, I don't like this one. Maybe also I don't like the 10 feet. If I don't like both, what kind of motion should I make?
You don't want that,
Yeah, I don't want
and,
this.
and you don't want the 10-foot
Yeah.
corner. You
Yeah.
want to keep it at 5.
Yeah, I want
That's
to.
an easy motion.
Yeah,
The motion is adopt staff recommendation number 2,
yeah.
but delete section 3 from the resolution.
Okay. Yeah. So I make a motion, recommend adopt staff recommendation number 2 without section 3. Thank you.
Understood.
I have a motion.
Well, can I interject something before we, just talking to them?
There's a friendly amendment coming.
Yeah, the 5 feet from the corner, in the corner lot, 5 feet from the sidewalk, what you could do, by doing that, you could interfere. If you stop at a stop sign there, interfere, seeing oncoming traffic, because the house is going to be so close. There used to be 15 feet back to give you room to look around the thing. They made it 5 feet, they saw that that it was too close and created traffic hazard, so they went ahead and did it 10 instead of 15, which makes it more sense, makes more sense. 15 was perfect, but 10 is still better than 5.
So,
Okay.
so
Got it.
the friendly amendment that you would like to is to still keep the step back, but remove the setback. So section 3, you would have the setback from 5 to 10 feet, but are you seconding his motion?
No, not for the house, I like the way.
Okay, so then, okay. Clarification, no friendly amendment. There's a motion on the floor that says you don't like section
3.
3.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second? I will second it, but we can take a vote.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. So there's a motion and a second.
Go ahead and cast your vote, please. Commissioner Botnagar?
Nope.
Commissioner Buza? Commissioner Crutchlow?
No?
And the motion does not pass.
Okay, so now I'd like for the other motion to come through. Somebody else, give it a shot. Nancy.
Throw it up there and I'll say it.
Okay, Commissioner Crutchlow.
If you can throw it up there, I can see it because I don't have any notes for it.
Okay, there, read the blue screen.
Blue screen, 2, to recommendations, or adoption of zoning, okay. Recommend that related to the adoption of the zoning map, including general plan amendments to change the residential land use designation on identified properties to preserve residential capacity per state law, adopting,
That was the first
No, it's
motion.
just-
Second one, second one.
Just
Now's
the
your moment.
agenda item.
Oh, sorry.
Read number
Read
2
this.
on that.
okay, adopt a resolution recommending the city council adopt a zoning code clean-up ordinance, including changes to single-family setbacks to be consistent with the city's adopted residential design guidelines.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Crutchlow and a second by Commissioner Boozer.
Any amendments?
Your
Not me, I'm asking, is there any amendments?
The new chair.
Okay.
we will have, it will include the step back and the setback.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Go ahead and cast your vote, please. Commissioner Botnagar?
Aye.
Commissioner Buza? Yes. Commissioner Crutchlow?
Yes.
Thank you, and the motion passed. Thank you.
For once I said it. No, perfectly fine. I knew it'll pass. Okay, we have one more.
Okay, I've moved to adopt a resolution recommending that the city council adopt the zoning code map consistent with the city's general plan use diagram.
Second?
Go ahead, cast your vote, please. Commissioner Botnagar?
Yes.
Commissioner Busa?
Yes.
Commissioner Crutchlow?
Yes?
Very good, the motion passed.
All right, thank you. That was supposed to have been very easy. All right, we will now move, and thank you for being here. We will now move to the second order for public hearing. It's a study session on Assembly Bill 1033, adopted 2023, regulating sales of accessory dwelling units separate from primary dwellings.
My screen went black.
I'm paying for the sandwiches?
Okay, get serious here, guys. Hey, what's a little fun in life? Okay, study session is on. Thank you, John. That was hard, but thank you. We appreciate everything you do.
Thank all of you.
Yes. Thank you.
Who this Kelly Grant is? I took the Kelly Grant sandwich.
We're just setting it up. We'll be ready in about one.
If you need a 5-minute break, anybody?
Yes.
Okay. We will take a 5-minute break and reconvene at 7:55. Let's get the show over with.
Push it. Move it 5 feet, you're just zapped out.
Just send me home when I get that bad.
Calling back to order. Planning Commission meeting, 7:56. Staff now will bring the study session forward. Assembly Bill 1033.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. My name is Alexander Abbey. I'm the Assistant City Attorney. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about AB 1033. If you'll recall, back in January, I gave my annual presentation on housing legislation. One of those bills was AB 1033. Commissioner Crutchlow asked us to do a more deep dive into that bill at a future meeting. And since this meeting had a relatively light agenda, we decided to illuminate you on AB 1033 tonight. So to understand AB 1033, I need to give you a little bit of the history of ADUs. As of 2016, we have been required to ministerially approve ADUs meeting certain setback and size and other requirements. But until 2020, there was a flat prohibition on the separate sales of ADUs and main units on the lot, also called primary units. I did not want to put PU all over my presentation, so I used MU on these slides. Until 2020, you couldn't sell them separately. Oh my gosh. Okay, fast forward to 2019. In 2019, a bill was introduced, AB 587, and that gave cities the option to pass an ordinance that for the first time would authorize separate sales of ADUs and MUs. But there were some significant restrictions. First, both of them had to be built by a nonprofit. 40% of the units built in this way are built by Habitat for Humanity. This is really a bill to benefit Habitat for Humanity. If Habitat for Humanity or another nonprofit built both the ADU and the main unit, and both the ADU and the main unit were sold to low-income families, and there was a 45-year restriction on subsequent sales to ensure that both of them would be sold to low-income families, then you could sell them separately. There were some requirements for what that sale arrangement would look like. The units would be sold as a tenancy in common pursuant to an agreement. The agreement had to provide that there would be an undivided, unequal interest in the property proportional to the size of the dwelling. So for example, if the main unit was 2,000 square feet and the ADU was 1,000 square feet, then the main unit owner would own 2/3 of the property and the ADU owner would own 1/3 of the property. Undivided interest, tenants in common. ROFR, right of first refusal to the nonprofit upon sale, so Habitat for Humanity could elect to buy the property when one of them wanted to sell it. But again, it had to be sold either to the nonprofit or to another low-income family. And there was an owner occupancy requirement of both units. That was all that AB 587 provided. There wasn't a lot of detail to it. But again, it was totally optional whether a city wanted to even allow this. Fast forward 2 years, Habitat for Humanity said, you know, it's not really moving the needle. We're not getting a lot of cities that are passing ordinances that are allowing us to do this. And so, AB 345 in 2021, now it says cities are required to allow separate sales of ADUs without any ordinance. Every city has to simply allow this. But they softened the requirements a bit also. Instead of saying that both the primary dwelling and the ADU had to be built by a nonprofit, they changed the law to say either the primary dwelling or the ADU had to be built by a nonprofit. So this allowed for a situation where you just had a regular house and Habitat for Humanity built the ADU next door. But both the main unit and the ADU had, again, to be sold to low-income families. There was still a 45-year deed restriction on subsequent sales. And this time, the legislature added more details on how the separate units interacted. Once again, they are tenants in common, undivided, unequal interests proportional to the sizes of the dwellings, right of first refusal to the nonprofit upon sale, an owner occupancy requirement of both units. But this time there's more specifics about how the units work together. You had to identify where are the common areas, where are their exclusive areas. You also had to delineate each party's responsibility for taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, et cetera. And then you also had to include some procedures for what happened when there was a dispute between the neighbors. There was virtually no opposition to this bill. There was no opposition to the prior bill either. But again, only applies to sales to nonprofits, where a nonprofit builds the units. And it's not invoked that frequently. Now we get to 2023, the bill at question. Assemblymember Ting introduced this bill, and the stated purpose of the bill was to help people enter the home ownership market for the first time. With a median home price of $800,000 statewide, and even higher than that in Santa Clara County, something like 17% of people can afford to purchase a regularly sized, median-priced home. And with most land in cities already being developed, most new housing developments are far from job centers or are in high-risk wildfire areas or are on land that's environmentally sensitive or important for agriculture. So there was this idea, let's increase density in already developed areas, and to that end, an early version of this bill would have simply reversed the prohibition on separate sales. Remember, there's still, in the second unit law, in the ADU law, a line that says, except where a nonprofit is involved, like Habitat for Humanity, separate sales of the main unit and ADUs are prohibited. So in an early draft of this bill, they were simply going to remove that prohibition. Instead of saying they are prohibited, it would have said they are mandated. Under this first draft of the law, local governments would have had to simply allow for such sales. But there were no constraints on who had to own the property and no constraints on who it had to be sold to. So a nonprofit did not have to be involved anymore, no Habitat for Humanity. But there were also no income restrictions. The ADUs could be sold to buyers of any income level. And in contrast to prior bills, there were no details about the form of ownership. Now, this did not sit well with a lot of people. First of all, cities didn't want to be forced into this. And the lack of details on ownership was confusing. Was this going to allow for fractional ownership? Or, could you have timeshares? There was a concern that this would create a rush of people selling their ADUs and then not realizing that that could trigger the due on sale clause of your mortgage. So the legislature took all those ideas and came up with, I think, a better draft. And what they finally adopted was this: cities are authorized, but not required, to allow separate sales of ADUs and main units by adopting an ordinance. Now, there still doesn't need to be a nonprofit. No nonprofit needs to be involved. And there's still no income restrictions or deed restrictions. The ADUs and MUs are specifically divided into condominiums now. It's not this undivided tenancy in common. And you need express consent of lien holders, meaning banks, and also any HOAs that exist. So let's drill down on those last 2 points. Separate sales of the main unit and the ADU. It will create condos. Do you like that? I found that that's in the Netherlands. Those houses are, it's in Bolwangen. It's a Dutch community of 50 spherical houses built in 1984, grouped together near a canal, built by a famous artist and sculptor whose name I cannot pronounce. But each house is about 600 square feet and it's 3 stories. I don't know how comfortable it looks, but anyway, I've been trying to find examples of what an ADU could look like throughout this presentation. But anyway, this bill, AB 1033, says that if you want to sell them separately, they will be sold as condominiums, and that means they are subject to the Davis-Sterling Common Interest Development Act. That's the state law that governs all common interest developments. So a condo development divides the property into exclusive areas and common areas, and presumably this would usually mean that each of the homes are exclusive and the yard is shared, but that can be further specified and refined in the required condominium plan, which is the document you have to file with the county recorder showing where the common and exclusive areas are. And you also have to create a condo association. Even if you're just creating 2 condos, the Davis-Sterling Act requires that all condo properties, regardless of size, have to have a condo association. So it's a little bit of a administrative hurdle. And the project will have to conform to the Subdivision Map Act, because you are creating a map of the property, and all requirements of the city's local subdivision ordinance. So you'll have to go through the process of getting a parcel map for a subdivision of this size. In Santa Clara, we even have actually a separate tentative parcel map and final parcel map. So they've formalized the condominium process if you want to do this kind of division. Before you can record the condo plan with the county recorder, you need written consent from all lien holders following a certain format, and that means mortgage companies. So this is to avoid triggering the due on sale clause. And the lien holders are not required to give consent. They can simply say, no, we don't like that. And they can also impose conditions on the sale. So, it remains to be seen whether lenders will go for this en masse. I mean, if dividing a lot into condos will reduce the value of the principal residence as a secured asset, they may not want to see their collateral go down on the mortgage. The lien holder consent has to be attached to the condominium plan. Of course, you could also just pay off the mortgage, get rid of the lien holder, but that's probably not going to be feasible in most cases. And if the house is already in an HOA, then the HOA also has to give written permission prior to the sale. The HOA board has to sign off, and they can say no.
They are limited to what they can say there. They cannot necessarily say no for a variety of reasons that were enumerated in the law. Just so we be clear.
Well, I do have the text of the law in
They, for instance, can't do architectural review and say, well, it doesn't fit in the way we'd like things to look. Sure you could. I know exactly where you can. There's plenty of them.
Yeah, but not around here, not in our city.
Woodsboro. It can happen.
Well, we're almost at the end. I just wanted to pull up the HOA language. Written authorization by the existing association means approval by the board at a duly noticed board meeting, as defined in section 4090 of the Civil Code, and if needed, pursuant to an existing association's governing documents, membership approval of the existing association. So if the CCNRs require a vote of the members of the association, that could be required. But it sounds like you're concerned that there's a limit on whether or not the HOA could say no based on architecture? Is that what you said?
Architectural review. They cannot just say, we don't like the way it looks, so we're not gonna let you do it.
And that's based on?
I saw in the code. But
I'm reading the exact language of the code. What are you reading from? The Davis-Sterling Act?
no, 65852.2.
Subdivision. Because this added subdivision A10
I'll
to
tell you what we'll do. Let's hold this for a
65852.2.
moment and let's finish. I'll let you finish.
All right,
here,
we're
and
almost
we'll
done.
get into the thing there.
Okay, so beyond the HOA consent, what does this mean for Santa Clara? Well, first of all, the city's under no obligation to adopt an ordinance. Again, what we ended up with was something that is optional. And so unless and until we get policy direction from the council to move forward with such an ordinance, we won't be drafting one. Should the council give that direction? Well, on the one hand, it would increase the available quantity of more affordable for-sale units, helping more people enter the housing market. It could also provide more options to homeowners by allowing homeowners who want to avoid being landlords build an ADU or sell it to help finance its construction, maybe helping retirees earn supplemental income. But There's criticism of the bill because there is no owner occupancy requirement like in the earlier bills that we discussed. So, will it be grannies trying to increase their income by building an ADU, or will it be real estate developer corporations buying up lots and turning them into rental units? And this may have some significant implications on our housing element. We have about 400 units projected in our housing element, and most of these are very low or moderate income, only about 10%, like 39 or above market. So if making these into for sale units would shift that, we might lose a significant number of our housing inventory in our housing element. So I think we need to very much consider that carefully before we made the policy choice to do this. But it is a policy choice. And so, you are welcome to convey your opinions on it one way or another to the council or take no action.
I'm sure we all have at least opinions. So what happens again if we don't take any action? Like
It's prohibited.
people can sell
No.
ADUs?
No. The city council still would have to say that we're adopting it.
The only way that you can sell an ADU separate from the main unit is if it is sold to Habitat for Humanity or another nonprofit. That's mandated by state law, regardless of what we do. But this gives the city the option of adopting an ordinance to authorize these separate sales to anyone. And I have some trepidation. At the very least, we need to think long and hard because we fought so hard to get HCD certification, and I don't want to rock that boat. But it would help people enter the homeownership market sooner.
Here,
I mean, 20 years ago, I brought up the same, what we're talking about right now, making so homeowners to be able to, get it into the market. And I recommended turning apartments into condominiums. And few developers took it, the one in Monroe and Los Padres, also on Scott Boulevard, Las Palmas. Down Homestead, you had two other separate units. And that's a way that you could do without affecting the neighborhoods at all, and actually getting more consistent residents in the area. That I can see. I'm all in for doing that, but this other thing
Apartments.
just doesn't, it just doesn't jive at all.
Apartment, you're talking about apartment condo
conversion.
conversion.
Right,
Yeah, and
into
we
condominiums.
have a whole ordinance
Right, and
for
that's,
that
20 years
process.
ago, I brought that up, and guess what? Somebody heard and started doing it.
Yeah, there have been those
And
statewide.
they
There
sell
was a
right
whole
away.
rash of them for a while.
They move, and they help people get into it, and then jump into buying houses.
So the original reason that I brought this up was we didn't go over the Davis-Sterling Act in detail, but basically, number one, I want to make sure that I understand this correctly. If I own a house, just a regular residential house, not part of an HOA, and I decide I want to do this, I can put, let's say, 2 ADUs in my property already. I can convert it over to a condominium? Is that correct?
If the city enacts this ordinance,
Right, okay.
you could create multiple condos.
What that means is I have to have a board of directors.
Yes.
I don't know what the minimum is, if there is a minimum of people.
what?
Number of people on the board.
Yeah, I don't know that offhand.
I'm assuming it cannot be one.
I would be very surprised if it could be.
I'm assuming it has to be at least a president and a secretary. So think about it. I got a house, I want to make a condo. I really don't care what the Davis-Sterling Act, I'm just going to friggin' do it, right? When you don't conform to the Davis-Sterling Act, somebody comes in, let's say they're renters, right? But you have your little condo you're renting out, which is allowed, I believe, correct? And I don't like what they're doing. I can report them and saying, hey, they're not following the Davis-Sterling Act, they're not having minutes of meetings, they're not doing anything, and they really shouldn't be a condo association. This happens today with condo associations that are very loose, and if you don't do things, you just see a ton of people in court. So my worry is that you're taking this down to a level which I don't think ever really was intended for condominiums. I think the intention was make condominiums for like apartments, like we saw, convert them over. But to do it at an ADU level, I think my concern was there's a lot of liability for our citizens. I don't think the city, not going to have a problem because of these, you don't follow the Davis-Sterling Act, it's not on us, it's on somebody else. Fine. I just think that it doesn't make sense that you would take an ADU, even if it's just one, convert it to a condo, and then all of a sudden you have to have a board, you have to have CC&Rs. I just think it's, a plan for a lot of crazy liability that doesn't make sense. So since we don't have to adopt it, what I'm saying is we officially recommend, hey, don't adopt it for the moment. One of the things we can do is other cities are adopting it. Let them be first, review how it goes with them. If it all of a sudden is working great, fine, we can always adopt it, but I would say be conservative initially, watch what other people do. There's a lot to this that is going to potentially come back on us.
Great topic. Commissioner Salem.
Yeah, this is a question mostly for Xander. How do they divide expenses? You said it was divided for like property tax. Let's just focus on property tax. How does the primary unit or main unit divide the property tax with the ADU owner? Is it a percentage? Is the lot redrawn?
Right. Well, the lot would be reassessed at the time that you did the subdivision, and presumably the separate units would be taxed to each owner, and then the common unit would be apportioned.
So the lot itself is subdivided and recorded with the city as two separate lots after that? Correct.
Well, it's not two separate lots. It's one exclusive lot, another exclusive lot, and then a shared common lot. So each owner pays for their house, and then they share the taxes on the common lot, depending on their percentage ownership.
Wow, that's really got my head spinning. Because
No, it's like any condominium development.
Picturing the situation, though, where, let's say, the ADU owner that just purchased is responsible for 25% of the property tax defaults. What is the city's recourse for the main unit owner? Do they pick up the new property tax, or the city takes over the ADU?
Great point.
How does the
way condos work
resolution of the
today.
defaulted?
If you default as an owner of a condominium and you don't pay your taxes, the homeowners association doesn't care.
Oh, I understand.
What happens is you're on the hook and personally for it, and they come after you, and then the city would have to do the same thing as they do with any other condo if you're not paying your taxes.
Simpler case, the ADU owner dies, there's no next of kin. It's empty.
Same laws as apply today to what happens in a regular condo.
Really? Okay.
State gets to take it over if you don't have a will saying,
There
I give it to
is
somebody.
this possibility that the city or state takes over the unit.
That's right.
Well, sure, if you die intestate without a will, I mean, it could escheat to the state. Or,
Well, I'm specifically concerned that, a main owner would defer, or could the main owner even make a contractual obligation that says the ADU owner is responsible for 100% of the property tax, and then the ADU owner defaults? And suddenly the main owner is not contractually obligated for any property tax?
well, you can't get out of paying your property tax. I can enter into an agreement with Leslie that says Leslie's going to pay all my property tax, but the state's still going to come after me if I don't pay it. They're not going to care that Leslie promised to pay my taxes.
Right.
I mean, I could sue her for not holding up her end of the deal, but the state doesn't care about that. They only care about, I mean, it'll be the county recorder in this case, but yeah, you have to pay your taxes.
There are paths through this process where state or bank or somebody takes over the ADU, and it's no longer in the sale to a nonprofit and other. stipulations that are no longer required because it's traveling a financial path of ownership.
Well, if a bank takes it over because somebody died, the law still remains, correct? They have the limitation, which is why they want to see the CCNRs and everything else before they approve their mortgage, right?
Actually, my question was, what's the difference then of having, just going ahead and saying, divide the lot into just have two separate lots and just that same lot divided into, so you can have two houses in the same lot? That's actually about the same conclusion that you're giving us.
That's subdividing the lot.
And that, well, yeah, but actually, there was in Bowers between Warburton and El Camino, at one time there were 3 separate houses, and they were bought by 3 separate developers, and they were knocked down, and they built close to 10, 20 houses in there, all single-family homes, and there used to be 3 single-family homes in there. So they took those lots, and they were able to do it. So I think the whole matter here is getting complicated. I wouldn't worry about the taxes. They'll find a way, the county will find a way of getting their money out of it from the
way the
property
taxes
owners.
work is-
And the banks will come in and take over, pay the taxes, and then whoever buys it, attach it to it.
Yeah, none of that stuff is changing. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, in this situation, I think it's a very
That's the
poor
last-
choice to allow this kind of situation, because the complexities of condos, the Davis-Sterling Act, were really never created to accommodate something like this. I think that
That's the
they're really
last thing
trying
I worry
to
about.
push something in that's going to just cause us a lot of grief, which we
There you
shouldn't
go.
allow.
Just say no,
Agreed.
move on.
Okay, so we are all unanimous in that we are not going to recommend anything. Did the city do anything about this law? And we are going to be status quo.
Whoa. Initially, what I was asking is that we do formally ask the council to not,
Do anything about this law?
well, to say we are not participating
Right.
in this officially, and, we'll wait and see and how everybody else, goes with it.
So if you didn't, what would the city do? The same.
What would the city be able to, well, for example, would the council be able to go ahead and say, yeah, we're going to do 1033, and it bypasses the planning commission? Would it bypass the planning commission, or would it come here first?
It would have to come here first.
It would have to come here first, okay.
Yes. It has to be done by ordinance, and this affects land use, so it would have to come to planning commission before they could adopt it for your recommendation.
Okay. I'm okay with that. Thank you.
God
I
help
just
us,
wanted-
have a question.
No, but great insight, and I know there was a separate meeting going here, but there was a great insight.
No, I have a separate question.
Okay, Commissioner
I'm
Biagini.
testing it because of my last question. Anyway,
Yes, Commissioner Biagini.
so I don't know if I'm correct on this or not. But I always understood a condo, you own the building, not the land under it. A townhouse, you own the building and the land under it. Am I wrong about that? If I am, end of my question.
In a CCNRs, it will give you a fractional amount that you owe, because that fractional amount has to be used for taxing you, like when,
Well, let me tell you why I'm asking that question. Because when you say to me, you had this ADU, you subdivide it, somebody else buys the ADU, all that stuff, right? And now you're going to call it a condo. And I'm sitting there going, why are you calling it a condo? It's a little house. Okay, whatever. You want to call it a condo, call it a condo. But if, as I was understanding the original layout, I was thinking more townhouse. So in other words, yeah, this piece of property, 1/4 of it is the ADU now, that we're going to call a condo. 3/4 of it is the main unit, okay? And I'm thinking, okay, so the way they do the taxes, right, is going to be the little condo is paying for its building and 25% of the property, that's its tax rate. The main unit is paying for its building and 75% of the property, that's its tax. But if it's a condo, how can it be a condo? Then what you're saying is it's a townhouse, which is why I started with, doesn't a condo only last?
That would be in the condo plan. The condo plan would specify who owns what. I mean, that's sort of the purpose of it.
Why would
Here's
you
how we're
call-
going to break up the property. You own this part, I own this part, and all this is shared. And depending on what that says, the county will decide how to allocate the
Why
taxes.
are we even calling it a condo?
As the state decided to call it a
It's a
condo.
technical
If
term.
if you got a common lot, it's probably going to be called a condo. I used to live in a townhouse
I'm asking
in
you to
San
explain the
Jose,
state.
and it was called a condo. I mean, it may look like a townhouse, but still be a condo.
Because it's San Jose, but it's kind of like, I didn't say that, sorry, Mahan. But it's like, this does not make anything easier to understand than what is already a little convoluted. So there's my comment.
Then I would encourage you to not recommend they move
Yes.
forward with an ordinance, since I'm probably going to have to write it, and it's going to make my head hurt.
So yeah, mine's
for that.
already blown up, okay? So I don't recommend any of this stuff. Is that what you're saying? I get a chance at recommending or not recommending this?
You don't need to take any action. If you want, you can make a formal non-recommendation. You could also fold it into your next list of priorities that you give to the council, like you gave earlier this
I'm
year.
vaguely curious, if I didn't recommend it, would you have to write it? No, right?
I have not heard anything about the council's knowledge of this, let alone any opinion on it, but I'm certainly not going to encourage them.
I'm trying to help
Ignorance is
you
a
too.
bliss, right? So if,
Okay.
as long as it comes
right.
through us first to
Yes.
begin with, then
It
we're
has
fine.
to.
So this is a great insight. Again, this is a nuance of our many, many, many housing laws. Again, it is a choice that is allowed by state. At the moment, we will continue to believe that ADUs can be sold to nonprofits in the city of Santa Clara. Okay? Any other additional comments? Commissioner Salem.
How does this combine with the lot subdivision that we talked about before from AB whatever,
SB 9.
SB?
9. 9.
How can you divide to 3 units within the same physical space, I'm not going to call them same lot, and sell 2 of them
Well,
as condos?
okay, so first of all, you're saying that if the council wants to do AB 1033 and adopt an ordinance.
Right.
Okay, can you combine condoizing an ADU with an SB 9, what, second unit or lot split or both?
Lot split with the second unit, because we talked about it, you
Right.
can get to 3 units
Right,
on one physical lot.
right.
In that process, you would be generating 2 theoretically extra units that could individually be sold as condo ADUs.
Well,
Correct or incorrect? I hope I'm incorrect, because then this is just going to encourage people to spawn off ADUs for sale.
right, but once you, the ADU law and the SB 9, there's a prohibition on combining them after a certain point. And I'm trying to remember what that is off the top of my head. Once you split, you're no longer eligible to build the ADU, or
No,
is
you can
it?
build the ADU. You can't
It's-
split
Resplit it.
You can't split it again.
No, but there's also something dealing with the ADUs. It interplays the ADU law.
You have to, it has to be owner occupied for 3 years or something.
Well, that's another requirement.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know how this law relates to SB 9.
It,
I think it's section E on the 6585.2.26. If you want to see it, I can just pass this over.
65852.26 is the nonprofits law, right?
I'm not trying to stir this pot, I apologize again. But I'm just seeing abuse on the horizon for this, especially when the profitability of dividing out a big lot raises to the awareness of an owner that they can spawn off 2 units and sell each one of them individually and still have their main house.
But are you saying like it would be like subdividing the property?
Yes. You subdivide the property, you can add
Through
an
SB 9.
external ADU.
Okay.
The staff could do a much better job explaining
Yeah,
it.
so if you subdivide the property using the SB 9 law, you now have 2 separate legal lots. you can sell one of them if you want, but each lot is eligible to have its own ADU. So then with this new law, if you adopted that ordinance, you could then sell your ADU as well.
That's why we contemplated that. You could technically own 4 homes
On a
with
single
SB9.
lot.
And sell 3 of them if the condominium.
If you adopted this 1033 as your own ordinance, then you could sell the ADUs as well.
So this idea of.
Comes out on a monopoly board,
subdividing is
I'll,
turned on its-
I'll look at it.
Say that again?
This idea of you can't keep subdividing this is turned on its head with the application of this, because in essence, that's what you're doing. I have 2 separate lots, I subdivide, I can't keep subdividing, but hey.
I can build
I
an
can
ADU.
sell, I can build and sell this ADU, and I can build and sell this ADU. So basically, in essence, I've done it, what you said I
Okay,
couldn't
I
do.
finally found what the clause I was thinking of in SB 9. And what it says is that a local agency shall not be required to permit an accessory dwelling unit or a junior accessory dwelling unit on parcels that use the authority contained within this section, which is SB 9, and the authority contained within 66411.7, which is the lot split part of SB 9. So once you invoke SB 9, then the ADU part is done. If you build your ADU before you invoke SB 9, you can do both. So now describe this doomsday scenario you're thinking of?
I think you prevented it.
Okay.
Because it's not something that somebody would do.
Right.
After just the realization of this law sank in, they could say suddenly, oh, I'm going to sell 3/4 of my property and still have my house, by having these separate subdivision followed by ADU, followed by sale of secondary subdivision and both ADUs.
There's some limit on that.
Yeah, there's a limit, and I think that's what's key to keep us from, and I don't want to go any further, that's into the dark hole.
And for
20
that,
deep.
we thank you.
Okay, there are too many smart people thinking up of really stupid things out there at the state level. At
Too
the
many stupid people thinking are really smart.
I made them smart still, okay.
Like your laptop.
Okay, this was enlightening. We all know we don't want to go down this rabbit hole, and there are many rabbit holes that we're already down under. So bringing us back to point, thank you so much, Xander, for, again, bringing this topic, and thank you, Commissioner Critchlow, for always keeping us straight. I don't think City Council has this level of enlightenment yet, and we don't want, according to Xander, to bring this to them. Okay, any other?
Do we or do we not have a vote requirement for us to suggest they adopt or not adopt this?
It's up to us.
Yeah.
It's a study session, technically. You could absorb it, enlighten yourself, and leave it. Or we could take this and say, we are so enlightened, we would now like to take a formal recommendation to the city council, and you could give us a motion.
Okay, I'd like to move that we recommend to the city council that they do not adopt an ordinance allowing this divided ADU sale option that has been proposed.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Salem and seconded by Commissioner Biagini, and I'm sure that's where you were also headed.
So this is saying not to adopt 1033?
Correct.
Not
Yeah, I
to
just-
adopt an ordinance pursuant to
That's what
AB
he-
1033.
Okay.
Stole your thunder, but yes. Okay,
Sure, I
so we have a
understand
motion.
enough. I think I feel
Yeah, me
confident
too.
on that.
So we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Biagini.
Go ahead and cast your vote, please.
Let me make sure I read this right. Wait, this is backwards.
Yeah, so the
Recommend-
motion is not to adopt, so
Correct.
The recommendation is to not adopt.
Recommend that city council not adopt an ordinance pursuant to AB. Is that correct or no?
That is correct.
That's correct. Okay. That's what I heard verbatim, so we can change it, whatever you
Well,
want.
I'm reading something that says adopt.
Not adopt.
That's why
So
I read up
it
there,
says
not adopt.
Not adopt.
No, motion and, no, look.
Oh, there's a different thing up there than I'm seeing on my screen.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what you guys see on your screen, I'm
Different than
sorry.
what I see on my screen.
Aye.
I'm going to go with that word, not my screen words.
So go ahead and cast your vote, please.
So I have it here, but I can't vote.
Okay, that's fine. Let me call those who could not vote. Commissioner Buza? Yes. Commissioner Crutchlow?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And the motion, was that your vote? It was up there.
So somehow it got there, but it
Okay.
says I have a network.
Is that
error.
correct for you?
That's fine.
Because
Yes,
it was
that's
there. Okay, very good. Okay, the motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Huang, we need to take the conversation outside.
Oh, somebody's going to throw down.
Watch out.
Uh-oh, you're in trouble.
I'm proud of it.
The reports of Commission, Board Liaison, and Committee, announcements and other items. What am I doing about commission dinners before meetings? I am announcing that we are very grateful for the food.
Thank you. That was,
Okay. Thank you again to staff and to the city, of course, for allowing us to be nourished before these meetings. It is definitely a perk we don't take lightly. We are committed, of course, in our efforts to continue to support the city. And Commissioner Buza is abstaining from that. Okay,
And Commissioner Bhatnagar doubly appreciates it.
I'm sure.
On behalf of Kelly Grant.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Travel and Training Reports. Any request to attend trainings?
I have a report on the remote training.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, yes. Oh, my
Yeah.
God, yes. The
it-
National Planning APA, go for it.
The training was considerably better. I think I had maybe 4 hours of useful content, which was better than the near zero from the previous efforts. The request that we could make to them, though, is to please schedule on Pacific time,
Yes.
not Central, because I was rolling out of bed at 6:30 in the morning to be able to get online and
Yeah.
attend. So that was not fun. Overall, though, I think cost effectively, it was very well presented, and there was enough content to make it worthwhile. I would recommend it to others.
Yeah. And again, as I said, if we have an opportunity to do it in person, all the better. You get the full networking potential. You do meet people from other parts of the country, actually. Believe it or not, we're not just a country by ourselves in California. But it is quite a good content forum. Okay, thank you for that report, and thank you for attending it. I will just say that I was recently invited to be a panelist. I was just making the clarification, it was through my workplace. However, it did go as chair of Planning Commission on their announcements, and I had to put the disclaimer in effect to say I'm representing only myself and not the views of the city or the Planning Commission. And that was a declaration I made. And I also did not accept a gift. You'll be proud of all your training, Xander, to me. I did not accept the gift. Moving on. Director of Community Development Reports. Staff, any Planning Commission budget update from Elizabeth?
Yeah, we're pretty much at the same. I just want to remind everyone, we have the renewal for the Business Journal. Everyone has access to the online
Oh, okay.
Business Journal, so if you have any questions about that, let me know.
Okay.
But that's something the Planning Commission has had in their budget for a very long time. Your budget is, as we're coming down to the close of the fiscal year, at $8,500 in the balance.
Thank you. You have a month to spend it.
All right.
just to bring to everybody's notice, there's some emails circulating about an planning APA conference for California.
CA, California?
You got some emails about that? Isn't that, I haven't seen it, I didn't get one, but usually it's what, September, October?
Yeah, it's
I
at
think?
the end of September
Yeah.
in Riverside.
Yeah,
Riverside.
Yeah.
yeah, that'll be a
It's
great
nearby, and
opportunity.
it's, I'm just bringing it to the notice of everybody in case somebody wants to go.
Yeah, great, thank you.
We'll bring it to the next meeting if we have more information on the,
I'll take a look.
yeah, on the California APA.
Sure.
Okay, great, thank you for that information.
Commissioner Salam.
One more thing on budget.
Yes, Commissioner, but
I did some investigation. We could get adapters for our iPads that would allow us to directly connect to a wired connection, which would alleviate the issue that we're seeing with the throttled wireless and may actually help with our connection problems that we're seeing like tonight. So who do I communicate with? Somebody directly in IT or through you?
Why don't you go through me and we can see what can be done? And if this is a purchase that makes sense. then
Yeah,
we'll-
it's just an Amazon purchase. It's very economical.
Yeah, we'll check in with IT and make sure that it meets the needs and.
Sure.
and on that same vein, can we check if this iPad is too old?
Yeah, we certainly can.
Oh, I don't know, but it's still functional, but just asking if the city is actually upgrading its iPads.
Well, if we use the new Surface that's coming out with an AI chip, we wouldn't even have to consider thinking about anything. It'll do everything for us.
It'll be my voice someday. Yeah, or will it ask me to do more explanation? Upcoming agenda items.
Nothing in particular on the horizon. At your June 12th meeting, you will have 2 use permits before you. And then as far as city council actions, the last city council meeting on May 7th, the council did readopt our housing element as well as our El Camino Real rezoning sites. So that has now been submitted to HCD and we are in the process of waiting for their certification.
Yay! And I will add the upcoming agenda item include the election of the chair
Yes.
and vice chair and secretary.
Yeah, all officers, correct.
All officers, thank you.
So that'll be
Please
at
add.
the next meeting, and then it'll take place in the July meeting, the new officers, yes.
I will not be at that meeting, but the Development Review Officer, Sheldon Ossing, will be sitting here in my stead.
Okay, thank you for the heads up. And this is for the June meeting?
June 12th, yes.
Okay, and I will not be there for the July meeting. Okay, just making a point. When is our July meeting again?
July 10th, that will be the meeting to consider the Kylie project, which is at the old Yahoo site. It is massive. If we make it to July 10th, we'll see.
And the new chair will take it on.
Well played, Chair.
Thanks, Priya. 3 in a row.
You can do it.
I think our vice chair is well endowed. Anything else for the good of the order that I missed? Seeing none, you already reported city council actions.
I did get officially, not my oath of office, so I can actually sit here now officially. Since February,
What?
Wait.
I was reinstated for another term, but I was supposed to apparently have taken my oath in February, and we did it last week.
Oh, we'll need to go back and reconsider all actions today.
Thank you.
Let's do them now.
I did take my oath on
Well,
time last
actually, they were ahead of
couple days ago, so I'm
themselves.
fine.
Please
That's
have a
for the
separate
new
meeting with
fiscal
Commissioner
year.
Salem.
Yeah.
The rest of the planning commission.
Yeah, I was ahead, never mind, it was good.
Can I make one little, just,
Yes.
I recently traveled to Scotland, and I wound up finding something very interesting, how they control Airbnbs. I was looking at, this hairdryer, and looking at the microwave, and everything had a sticker on it. I'm like, why is everything got a sticker that's signed off by an electrician? Yeah, you're gonna like this one because of the union. They require Airbnbs to have an annual certification of all devices. They have to have a sticker on them. The guise was under, they must meet similar standards to other hotels and such in safety. And when they started doing that a few years ago, what happened is a lot of people decided not to do Airbnb.
We have now a new zoning language. Great insight.
It was interesting. I'm not sure I'd like it or not, but needless to say, I never worried about dropping the hairdryer in the bathtub, so. Safety counts.
Very nice. Thank you so much for giving that insight. More to come. Always a pleasure to be here. With that, meeting adjourned at 8:46.
By consent.
All right.